damn it, guys, we got a show to do. What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife?
I keep them separated.
We digress. Well, he's not that smart. Sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
What is the retaliation that you have?
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?
So we're going to respond to some listener email right now. This comes from Molly Models, which, by the way, kind of a cool name, right?
Is it Models?
Molly.
Like M-O-T?
Models.
Oh, Model. I have no idea.
Or maybe it's Model. I don't know.
I'm sure it's a profession. Is she a model? Is she hot?
But is she hot? Well, she said she's been meaning to send us out an email for a while now, and just wanted to say that she loves our content. However, the very next sentence is a backhanded compliment, which I enjoy thoroughly. I usually go to sleep listening to you guys' podcast.
It's our soothing voices.
Our soothing voice and our boring content.
I love it.
No, thank you, Molly.
But she wanted to know, and I think this is good. I think we discussed this on our pilot episode, but she wanted to know how do we know each other. Because she says she thinks we live in different states and regions and whatever, and she also wants to know what it's like keeping up a close friendship despite our distance.
I can answer that. We met on chat roulette.
This is actually the first day that we're still meeting. We just made a lot of content together on chat roulette.
What Mike showed me at first really hooked me to our friendship. That's a guy I want to be friends with.
Well done. Well done with that, Mark. Cheers to you. So we actually all met. Mark and I went to high school with each other, but we all worked at McDonald's when we were very, young. High school. In Michigan, yep. We all worked in the same place. And then we just kind of all went our separate ways after that, except for me. I stayed put. They ran as far as they could away, especially Mark.
Jeff and I, we also worked at a company and went to college together. So we've been pretty good friends for a while before I left to work in Asia and Jeff moved out to D.C. area.
I need to say no more. They have learned about me as well.
That's right. Okay, and another question she brought up. What are you guys' isms or little things you feel like you have to do or are worried about? So basically obsessive compulsion type things. Do you guys have any of those?
I mean,
yeah,
I have to talk all the time.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I started like a YouTube career and things like that is I can't be quiet for long periods of time without saying anything. So even playing video games and such, I would talk to myself. So I figured, why not talk to other people? And
it's sort of weird to say that I actually feel like I have to work. It's not that I enjoy work. It's that whenever I'm at a job and I'm not actually doing anything, I get extremely, really bored. And I need an actual objective to accomplish something in a day.
I don't know if that's quite an ism that they're talking about, but like any like tics, do you like constantly like brush your hair back? Do you?
I don't think I have any of the physical tics like you're talking about. However, I do feel like I am probably more OCD than either of you.
You used to have that big thing with towels.
I had a big thing with a lot of things. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, it's gotten better since I've gotten older. I don't have nearly.
What do you mean, towels?
He refuses to use a towel more than one time. Like, he takes a shower one day, dries off with a towel. It must be in laundry, cannot be touched again by like human hands
Well,
until it goes through the
no,
washing machine.
I don't think that was me. I think that was Brian.
Oh no! That was you for sure, because we made bets with you to see if you could do it, and you straight up even said like you realized like day 2 or day 3 of using the same towel that you said you weren't even drying yourself off, and you'd end up putting clothes on wet because you'd be like, like throw it. That was you for certain. There's no question in my mind.
It's very possible. Like it's somewhere along the line I graduated to when I can smell the towel, like the moldy kind of smell. Then it's got to go away for sure. So I'm better, but I think kind of across the board, I'm just better now. Like for sure, when we were younger, I had the most out of all of us. Like it used to be so bad to the point where I could not sleep under a blanket where, you know, they have like the tags on the blanket with like the washing care and all that. If I was laying in bed and that tag was up near me, like up at the top of the bed, I could not sleep. I could not go to sleep until I turned the blanket around.
When I was younger, I did used to have a weird balance, like touch balancing thing that I had for like a year and a half. And it's really sort of hard to explain. Like if I scratch one side of my face, I sort of have to scratch the other side of my face to get like a balance of feeling on my body. It's really weird to explain.
No,
but
I understand. I mean, that's like one of the stages of like OCD, isn't it? Having to do things like equally.
Probably.
And
yeah.
So what about, if I also recall, man, Mike, because I remember we talked about this before when we were.
I was going to say, like, if you guys have a strong memory of me, you know, I had a lot of them back in the day. I'm growing out of them now.
What about shirts that don't all face the same direction on a hanger?
Oh, my closet used to always. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not just like they would always face the same direction, but they were always organized by type. Like T-shirts were always together. You know, short sleeve button-up shirts would be together. Long sleeve button-up shirts would be together. Oh yeah, for sure.
When you hang clothes, do you have it so it? I don't know how to explain it. Were the hooks facing away from you or towards you?
Depends.
It depends on the way the rod is.
Exactly. Some of them, if it's just a straight up rod, 99% of the time I think people just put it in like hooks facing away. But my closet growing up wasn't a rod; it was actually a piece of metal that came down in a hook fashion, so you could only put them in so that you had to pull them. So I did get used to that, but I never carried that on to when it was a rod. I never put them in like facing the other direction.
No matter which type it was, though, my shirts always faced to the left. I don't know why that was. I have no clue why that was.
I wonder what made you think left and not right when you first.
Yeah, mine.
I don't know why. I don't know why I did any of the things that I used to do. And like I said, I'm breaking away from them as I'm older. Like, they don't really bother me anymore. But one thing I still notice I do that is definitely OCD. So without getting too into it, my job is kind of repetitious, but it's very, like, I'm almost essentially like a proofreader. Like, I handle every customer order that like comes through our steel mill goes through me, and I have to read it over for like chemistry requirements or, you know, different things, different properties that it has to have to meet customer specifications. And what I do is I basically make sure that those are front and center so that it doesn't get missed, you know, in processing. So I'm very particular about how I do things, and it's not even such an OCD thing as it is my job has to be done a certain way, and if I develop, you know, strong patterns to do it, I'm not going to miss something.
Right. So
however, even when I know that I've already looked at an order for a certain requirement, I go back and do it again anyway. If there's a question in my brain that pops up, did you do this? I could be 99.9% sure that I did it, but I'm going to go back and look at it anyway, even though I know it's silly because I did do it, because I do it the same exact way all the time.
So you like the double checking.
The negative qualities about myself are that I work too hard, I care too much. That's what that sounded like. It sounded like you were just like, so
No,
these
no,
OCD
oh,
things
no.
I have is I double check my work. Like,
No,
I think what he's
no,
saying
that's
is,
not
even
it.
though when he knows that
I
he's
know.
done something, he has to check anyway. Sort of like you turn off your oven, then you leave the house, and you're like, I know I turned off the oven, but
did
you,
I
you
turn
feel,
off the oven?
but
Yeah,
you feel
it's
compelled to
that's
check anyways.
that's exactly the equivalent of this because I don't know how many orders on a weekly basis that go through my hands.
Right.
And when you think 20 to 25%, somewhere in that range, I know I've done them the right way and I've read them through the right way to make sure the requirements are what they are. I just know because I'm regimented in how I do things. I know they're done right, but I go back and check them anyway. I don't know how much time I waste going back and checking things that I know are right because I do them the same way every time. So it's not a positive. I'm not trying to speak myself up. I waste a ton of time going back and
You hit
doing
it here.
things that I
If
know are
you're
done.
Mike's boss, he wastes a lot of time. Came from his mouth.
he does about 15 minutes of actual work a week.
And then just rechecks it like for like the next 6 hours.
Just looks
Like,
all
did I do that?
frustrated and flustered every time like somebody comes over. Go away. I'm checking this work again.
But aside from that, like all the weird stuff I used to do when I was younger, I don't think I do a whole lot of that
No,
anymore.
did you grow out of it, or is it something that you had to do consciously? Like for me, I had to basically tell myself, stop doing what I'm doing, stop retouching, like trying to equalize, and I just sort of got used to not doing it, and that's how I sort of overcame that problem. Or did you just naturally?
I think for me it was just sort of I have so many other things going on that it became way less important.
All right.
So, my oldest daughter is 16 at this point, and obviously kids require attention. So when it comes to you're trying to hang up your clothes all in one direction, all certain types of shirts together, when it starts to come into your mind while you're doing that, hey, you know what? My kid has been really, really quiet in the next room over, and they're only really quiet when they're drawing on the wall with crayons. It becomes way less important to sort your clothes than it does to get over into the other room to make sure your white painted wall hasn't become a mural for crayon pictures.
So I'm trying to think the things that I've broken. Like I used to be really, really bad about if you microwave something and you stop the microwave before it's done and you leave time on the clock or time on there instead of the clock, I would like literally, if I noticed it from anywhere, I'd like go across the room to clear the seconds off the clock so that I could look at the time. It would drive me insane.
That still bothers me.
It bothers me a little bit now, but not nearly as much. I also used to like flashing 12 on alarms or on stereos or clocks or whatever that the power went out and came back on and now it's flashing at you. That used to drive me insane. And now I'm just kind of like, I don't want the flashing 12 there anymore. I don't even care if the time's right though, but I just don't want the flashing 12, but not nearly as like crazy as it used to make me. I think I just grew out of it though. I don't think I did anything consciously to try to not.
That doesn't really bother me anymore. I feel like we have clocks everywhere all the time.
Maybe that's maybe it's a product of the fact that back then I didn't wear a watch and therefore it was the only way I could look at the time. I don't know. It could be product of environment.
Right. Like I have my coffee pot is never like the time is never set on that thing because it sits close to the edge of the counter. And it's one of those coffee pots where you don't have to like change it over to a weird setting to set the time. It just has an hour and a minute button right on the front of it. And because it sits close to the edge of the counter, my 4-year-old is more than tall enough to reach said coffee pot and realizes that when he pushes the buttons, it changes the numbers on there and he thinks it's cool. So the time, even if I were to go upstairs right now and set the time, it'd be wrong by noon tomorrow. Because he will have realized.
How would you know what time it was wrong, though?
Well, I wouldn't know what time was wrong, but my point is
might be
that
noon tomorrow. Might be. It might be.
if I start
Nobody knows
obsessing,
anymore.
if I start obsessing over that clock, it's going to make me completely insane because it's never, ever, ever going to be right. By the way, that's what kids do to you. They desensitize you to everything.
I mean, that's
They're
probably
just so-
good for somebody that used to have as many compulsions that you did.
Maybe
Right.
it is. I don't know, but you know what? Is it good? I don't know because they make me nuts. Because I am someone who
Kids do or your
is
compulsions
very.
do?
What's that?
Kids
Oh, the
make
kids
you
do.
nuts or the okay.
The
No,
kids
the
do.
kids do, sure. Because I am someone who's very big on efficiency.
Obviously
Honestly.
not. You just told us how inefficient you are at work.
Oh, well, no, but
This
I'm
is like,
talking
I think
about-
Mike's really trying to put out a resume and just not realizing he's contradicting himself on this show. I double check everything, and I'm huge on efficiency.
I have to. I'm the one who walks around shutting off lights in my house constantly.
Yeah, but you're the one paying the bill.
Why not get light
So that's
sensors?
probably why.
If it drives
Well-
you that insane, get light sensors. Or motion sensors, I mean. Yeah.
Would that work with kids? Because they're constantly running in and out of rooms, and
Well, do you want them running in and out of rooms with the lights off so they can like run into the edge of the, the bed or the dresser or
they
whatnot?
do that anyway.
It's true. But
kids
when
are
you
walking
when you turn the
catastrophe.
lights off, do they stay off?
In my house,
Yeah.
no, because my 4-year-old can
So
reach
then,
every
there you
light
go.
switch.
You need to take away the light switches, just have futuristic light sensors.
So I should have a smart home for my kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not? It's not for your kids. It's more for. It would help the kids as well, but I think it would help your wallet in the long run.
It
I mean-
probably would. You're right.
Yeah, I mean that's how bathrooms at lots of like restaurants and things like that are on light sensors, so
yeah.
that because nobody turns off the light in a bathroom in a public place when you
Right.
go out the door. But if nobody's in there, why waste the energy? So turn it on and off.
I don't. How do those work exactly? You know, what? Maybe I do need to look into
Motion
these.
sensing
Like,
technology.
so it's just a motion sensor that looks throughout the whole room.
Yeah, it just probably sees the difference in
I mean, they're set up. They're
ambient light.
They're keyed to a certain spot. I'm sure. Like if you.
Right.
I'm trying to remember exactly where I was at, and I always found it hilarious. There was a bathroom that I frequented. I don't know if it was at one of my jobs or what. 'Cause I'm not claiming that I'm like the most efficient person at work, but I remember I would sit in the bathroom, and if I sat there for long enough, the lights would turn on me. And then I find it even more hilarious. Like, you ever been sitting on a toilet and the lights just go on? Like,
Yeah,
so. The thing was.
and then you do the wave. I was like,
Well,
like-
so if you want to do the wave and get the lights to turn on, but yes. But have you ever walked into a bathroom? If you walk into it and the lights turn on because you entered, you don't expect that there's anybody in there. So when somebody does walk in the door and the lights are off, I'm just like, hey, what's going on? Like, scares the crap out of people.
You walk into a bathroom, the lights come on, you hear from the last stall, thank you.
I've been trapped in here for days. So yes, motion sensing technology. Don't worry, folks. Show's not over yet. Just remember, you can email us at WDWKpodcast@gmail.com if you want to talk to us. Anyways, back to the show.
my wife, she was going through 9gag and saw an image where it shows a camera with a cassette, like a floppy disk cassette, and she was making fun of it. It's like, who would be so stupid to use a floppy disk because you can store hardly any pictures on it? And I was like, we made a video with that.
You know, amazingly so. God, we're dating ourselves a little bit in the technology era here. When Mark and I went to college together, my parents had gotten this video camera. I don't know why they got it because they're not even technology savvy people, but it was like they were like, oh, they had to have this video camera because it was something you didn't need to develop film on. It like stored pictures in digital format, and it literally, it was a camera that was, oh my god, probably
It was huge.
two two of my phones at least, which I have the Samsung Galaxy S5. It was like two of those because it literally had a 3.5-inch floppy disk drive slot in the side of it that it saved the images, or it saved the images and the videos too, like video with audio. And we made multi-minute videos on these things without even coming close to filling up this floppy disk. Quality wasn't
That's
great, but
that's hard to believe, because I remember when I first started getting into computers and things, like any game that you would ever play on those 3.5-inch discs, like it would take like 8 of them to load the thing.
Are they only 1.44 megs? God, am I remembering that right?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was 1.44.
Yeah, so I mean, think 1.44 megs, and we made multi-minute videos with audio. And
they just keep changing the floppy disk every couple of seconds.
Can you even imagine having a floppy disk drive anymore? I remember the first time. I used to love my floppy disk drive to pop it in the computer, save something, go to the school and print it out because I didn't have a printer. And the first time I had a corrupt file from the floppy disk, because they were so fragile and so easy to mess up the data on, and I actually got a late grade on an assignment because I got to the school and it didn't exist on the disk. The disk was corrupted. I had to go home and get it again with a new disk, and I ended up getting a late assignment. I basically took floppy disks from then on and never again.
Well, I mean,
and that was before flash drives existed.
Yeah.
Zip disks were the big thing at that point.
Zip disks, yeah, sure.
Well, I keep on saying that Japan's not the technology paradise that I always assumed it was. A lot of my schools still have floppy disks on their computers.
Do you use
them?
Wow.
Even on their laptops. It's really weird. I don't use them,
I don't even have a CD drive in my laptop.
Oh, yeah, you have the Chrome one.
I do have,
right?
the Chromebook. Yeah, my girlfriend's newest laptop doesn't have one either, though. I mean, you can do everything from Flash nowadays.
Mine has one, but I would never use it. So
I'm trying to think of the last time I opened the one. Oh, no, my desktop. My desktop doesn't even have one. I just looked down. It doesn't even have one. I have it in my other computer because I built this one from scratch, and I was going to transfer the DVD drive over into this one, and then I was seriously like, why would I even need a DVD drive? And I never put it in here, so I just realized it's, yep.
Yeah, I have a CD drive in mine, but I don't know that I've ever used it. Well, I mean, maybe once or twice or whatever to listen to a CD, but I don't know that I've ever used it for anything, data transfer purposes. Yeah, I might have burned a disc or two on here, but I don't remember for sure.
I want to get a 5.25-inch drive, just for nostalgia's sake. Just for nostalgia's sake. I mean, the original concept of floppy disk was those things. Do you remember the old 5.25s?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They were actually floppy.
Yeah. I was actually I almost started to say, you probably can't even buy those anymore, but I bet you can on eBay. I'm sure you can find those somewhere.
And for our younger listeners, if you don't know what we're talking about floppy disks, when you try to save something, that little icon, those are floppy disks and hard disks that we used to actually save things on. So that's why I use that button to save.
Holy crap, you're right. I didn't even think about it. It's so ingrained in my mind that what that icon is, but
for most of those, that's the 3.5, right?
Yeah, it's a 3.5-inch.
Right. I was going to say the 5.25. That goes way back.
Oh, I remember helping somebody when I was in high school, and this goes back to what you were saying. They got Windows 95 when it came out and wanted it installed in his computer, and I remember Windows 95 when it first came out. You could buy either the CD version, which was, I want to say just one CD. Or the floppy disk version. And the floppy disk version it was in a box because I think it was 30
It was 20
discs.
of them.
Yeah, it was 30 discs just front to back. And I was just I don't want to get into this. Can you imagine you're installing this thing and all of a sudden it's please insert disc 29 and you're okay, 28, 30. No!
Or the last one's corrupt.
Oh god, that would be the worst. Oh my god, I can't even imagine anymore. electronic media and the ability, like games, anything nowadays, but games especially, just because that's what I dabble in more or less. Remember when you used to have to go buy a game? Now I can just purchase it and get the direct download, like, so I instantly, quote unquote, however fast I can download it, but I instantly have it as opposed to having to like physically go somewhere and pick it up or wait for something to ship. It's so wonderful.
Well,
I couldn't go back.
Well, we have the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and I don't know if they started. I don't actually use consoles at all, but I know you could download some games for the consoles. Maybe not the bigger ones.
So I want to say you can download pretty much everything now, but I don't have those consoles, so I don't know how that works, because every time you want to get a different game, do you have to like delete it, download the new game? Like, do you have to re-download it every time you want to play if you're playing games in between?
You can store it on your hard drive.
But I mean, you only got.
But it can only store so much space, right?
Because I mean, those discs are like 7 gigs or whatever for a DVD. Dual layer, whatever it is, I don't know. Actually, what I do wonder is, I saw, I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, our friend JP was trying to get me to get this one console where you stream the video of the game through to your TV or through your laptop. And basically, your computer doesn't actually run any of the process. You're just seeing the images. And then through the internet, you send the information to their computer that does all that runs the program. And I was sort of thinking, when is that going to happen, where you never have to install a game? You just select the game that you paid for. You don't have to download it. You just stream everything. So, I mean, your input delay would be ridiculous, though.
Not necessarily.
Well, if they're processing it at a remote location, I mean, conceptually, I think that's really cool, because you could have the most basic computer, like a Chromebook. I mean, that's kind of the concept of the cheap computers, is that everything's run up in the cloud, and you're just kind of like a receiving media of it. But they don't do anything super intensive, because I think part of it is. Can you imagine playing a game? People get mad enough about the refresh rate of a TV for certain games, let alone processing it.
Well, when you think of, let's say, World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah.
You have it running on your computer, but it also runs on their server. Instead of having your computer do it, whatever, just have everything run on the computer, their server, and then the image comes to your computer. In fact, it might even be less bandwidth, because you don't have to send it to them, have it send it back to your computer, and then your computer processes that. So it might even be less delay.
So I think Minecraft is a perfect example about what you're talking about. Granted, Minecraft might not be the most perfectly written piece of software that,
sacrilege
uses everything so like efficiently, like Mike does at work. But if there's both client side and server side things that go on at all times, and some bugs that happen that is like, oh, I'm not seeing, or this is happening on my screen, but it didn't really happen because my client's ahead of the server at certain points. So there's definitely some, it tries, but it's not perfect by any means. I wonder if that's what maybe if we get this 10 meg per second minimum internet, everything can just work so efficiently.
All right. Because if the video streaming coming from the server is quick enough, then all you need is actually a supercomputer at the other end, and then you could have a really junk machine.
All you need is a supercomputer at the other end. That's it.
So as the kind of idiot of the group, do you guys remember what you're talking about? Totally reminded me of the arcade
game. Do you remember
game.
what you're talking about?
No.
The arcade
do you guys remember the arcade game Dragon's Lair?
Yeah. That was on
totally animated.
That was on Laserdisc.
It was on Laserdisc.
Yeah.
I don't remember
so
that.
at the arcade,
I just remember at the arcade.
Well, the reason why it looked so cool and it was sort of ahead of its time is that it had animation. Like it was
like a cartoon.
And that was because all the animation was stored on Laserdisc. And then once you made your selection, it picked that laser disc to play the video.
I remember I was super bad at it, and I thought it was really awesome looking, but I
Right.
could never get past like 5 seconds, and I'd have to put more money in. It was
It
bad.
was really hard. The game was. Basically, you had to memorize everything that you had to do in that game.
I almost want to look at this now, but I
You
I
don't
think
remember
I've
that
heard-
game?
I don't think I've heard of it before.
Dragon's Lair?
Dragon's Lair.
I mean, I've heard.
It
of
was
Dragon
totally
Lair.
animated.
Of course,
Like, it looked like a...
Jeff's a little bit younger than us, but
Yes, so much younger than you guys.
I mean, there was
Well-
like Chuck E. Cheese's where I used to play it all the time.
I remember it at like every arcade, and it was like so cool because it was totally like at the time like Disney animation quality.
Uh huh.
I mean, it was literally like a cartoon that you would see on TV, except it was a video game, and you just had to input kind of your choices that
Right.
you made.
But you didn't actually move the characters around. You just basically had like one of 3 or 4 options. Like, do you go left? Do you hit right?
It was almost like a choose your own adventure book. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
This must not be the game you guys are talking about. This YouTube video I just pulled up. It is definitely not good animation. It must be. Oh, here we go. The Dragon's Lair DVD full playthrough. Maybe this is.
Yeah, that could be it.
All I know is
'Cause
you put in a quarter and you get like 3 seconds to play
Okay.
before you die, and then you got to put another quarter
Oh,
in.
you know
Right.
what? I do recall this, and yeah, it looks just like a cartoon. Yeah. Oh my God, this brings back memories. I don't think I ever played it. I think I knew I wasn't good enough that I just watched people. I also think, if I recall, that this game had always had a huge line around it.
Yeah, it was pretty popular for
Yeah,
a
it
while.
was. It was popular.
I actually beat the
arcades
game.
Still popular at all?
No, not at all.
No.
A little bit in Japan,
Straight up.
but
Do people play
They're-
DDR
no,
a
they're
lot
not,
in
like-
Japan?
I wouldn't say a lot.
In fact, around me, the only arcade that we have, like in the area, is like a throwback arcade, and it's mostly pinball and like old school games, like
So,
Space Invaders and stuff like that, like Missile Command.
right.
Do they even
Well, it's-
make new console games?
Well, I think when they start having home consoles, it started killing the arcades in the States. It was a revival sort of around when Mortal Kombat came out, but after that, it was pretty much died.
When Mortal Kombat came out?
Yeah, when Mortal Kombat first came out, it was super
I think
huge.
Arcades were still booming
At the
at the
arcades.
point when Mortal Kombat first came out. That was that game came out when I was in middle school.
I think there was a revival, but I think it was before Mortal Kombat because Street Fighter 2 was before that for
That's
sure.
true.
And I was going to say, I remember heading back into the arcades with Street Fighter 2.
Well,
And actually, you know what? No, there was another game
Miss
before
Pac-Man.
Street. I can't remember what it was. Oh man, I want to say Samurai Showdown or something.
oh, that was a good game.
Was
That's
that like a
NGO.
fighting?
Yeah,
Was that a fighting game too?
yeah, that was for the NGO.
That might be it. That I can't remember now which game. It's been.
But when I
this
when
was.
I mean revival is basically when the Atari came out, it flooded the home market, and then people started going to the arcade a lot less than in its super heyday. Then it got sort of repopular, but it never really came back the way it was once popular everywhere.
Do you think there's anything that could revive it again now? Like looking at things like
I don't think so.
the Omni with the Oculus Rift. The Omni is that machine that you're supposed to be able to get in and run and make things. But I'm saying for people who aren't going to invest in that for home use, but you have an arcade that you could go play it constantly. Do you think that's something that could revive the system?
I personally feel like the whole sort of Dave and Buster's and GameWorks, which for those of you who don't know are kind of adult bar themed arcades. I think those probably will continue to have sort of a modest existence. But as far as like, kids going to like gather in an arcade, I think you get a lot better quality out of these. Essentially what game consoles are now are, PCs that you buy that are
Right.
just like tricked out for gaming.
Plus,
So I don't think you're going to go to any establishment and just get the same quality you get at home on your LCD.
and for these establishments, I think they have to charge such a high rate just to make money on their return,
Yeah.
to the point where people won't actually want to pay that amount of money when they can just go to buy a console for
But don't
relatively cheap.
But people buy a console, and let's say for the sake of argument here, pretty much everything you do on a console is with a controller. Granted,
Yeah.
they have the Kinect now. They have that little video thing for the PlayStation 4. I don't even know what that one's called. They do have like DDR pads that you can buy for them, but for the most part, it's a controller as your input. One of the things I really loved about physical arcade games is not like, Dave was really big into making the super arcade stick,
Right,
things that
right.
would hook up to this. I'm not talking about that, but the physical games that were made completely physically differently that you couldn't do at your home. Like I remember this one game, like speaking of Dave and Buster's, it's been a few years since I was at Dave and Buster's, but when I was, there was one game that I found so fascinating because it was just blocks that fell from the sky that you had to stack up. But you had to stack it up, and you had this thing that tilted left and right, and you held onto the front bars of it, and you tilted left and right because you had to like scoot them into certain positions and things like that. Which, yes, could you do that on a controller? Sure. But the physical aspect of being able to just have this thing where I'm tilting it and doing something different that I couldn't have done on a home system, I don't know. I think that's really cool. And if you granted, it's not going to be sustainable to just make a company that makes one of those. But if there's video game arcades around that you buy one of them and people pay.
I do say that the games where you have like full mechanical motion with it, those are nice, and I would pay extra, but you're not going to spend 60 hours playing a game. So how much money are you willing to spend? Like you'll spend it every once in a while, but
and that was kind of my point, was that like I think the Dave and Buster's and GameWorks and stuff like that, for like people our age, who that's kind of like a novelty. Well, not just a novelty, but it's a novelty that you can not only kind of hope to recapture your youth and drink alcohol while doing it. Like, I think that's the draw of these places.
That is recapturing my youth.
yeah,
Right, exactly.
It's like using go-karts. You use it for the fun, but you wouldn't buy a go-kart.
So, like I talked earlier about how I have a 16-year-old daughter. She knows nothing of not having like the Wii, that's interactive, where you have these handheld controllers that you do stuff with, or the and I don't even know the names of them, but PlayStation has one, the motion
Move,
the
Kinect.
PlayStation Move, and the Xbox has one, Kinect or whatever it's called. So like all this was novelty to us, where we had to go to arcade, like the thing Jeff was talking about, where you had to move around to move your blocks or whatever. Like that was all totally novelty to us. So as adults, if we can recapture a little bit of our childhood while playing these games and drinking alcohol, cool, But for kids, it's not anything spectacular, and they can't drink while they're doing it, so why would they bother?
One of the things that I always thought was sort of a waste is you talk about those full motion controller games, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't they make a TIE Fighters versus like Rebels game where it's full motion, where you're flying like either side of the Alliance or Empire,
and it's
in
like
Star
actually
Wars.
like you're in a TIE fighter and you can spin it upside down.
Because
things like that.
How much money would people waste on that machine? Especially if you could like make squadrons like in a arcade, like you're basically a squadron and you pay money, and I would waste so much money on that.
It would almost be like it'd be like going out and playing paintball without actually playing paintball. You'd just be sitting in like a machine. But no, but I completely understand, because one of the things that I think Dave and Buster's, GameWorks, etc., they're popular not just because of the alcohol, capturing childhood type of, deal, but that they have those enormous 3-story tall games that you get into and you like go up all those different layers that you physically could never have at your house. But I've always found those games really lacking in what they actually are. But yeah, if they made just one of those where you just lifted me up, I'm in a little TIE fighter, and all I'm doing left and right, it's just on like a little pivot, and it just goes left and right, and it can spin in a big circle. Holy crap, that would be amazing.
Right. And that's a kind of game where you can actually, being closed, and you would actually think you're in outer space.
Right.
It wouldn't even be that hard to make a game. Like, basically, you could, the old TIE Fighter game for the computer. You use the exact same program. Just make it 3D movie. That's it for this week. Catch you guys next week. Please follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and also on our website, WDWKpodcast.com.
Damn it, guys, we got a show to do. What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife?
I keep them separated.
We digress.
Well, he's not that smart. Sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
What is the retaliation that you have?
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?